Wonderful. Hey, it's Sunday, March 12th, 2017, and this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today, we're joined by one of our mentors, Shelley Iocona, founder and lead strategist at On Its Access, to lead a talk today on product management and the nuances of digital health apps. So just let me briefly explain the format we've got here today. So in the room here, we've got myself, the product guy, and Shelley. I run a mentorship program, lasts for about 6 months, where we pair up mentors and mentees all around the world. Shelley is one of those mentors. Each mentor leads a live stream talk that you're going to be joining in on today. And then for those of you who might be joining us from elsewhere, go to theproductmentor.com/live. You can watch the video on the top of the screen. Then along the bottom, you can post your questions, and we'll get them to Shelley in fairly real time so we can have a great facilitated conversation there. So with all that said, let me hand it over to Shelley to introduce herself and take it away.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Shelley Iocona, and I want to thank Jeremy for having me as a mentor in session 6 of the Product Mentor. It's really fun to be here. I'm giving a talk today about product management and healthcare. It's an important topic, and really the nuances of managing and digital health applications. I was first introduced to digital healthcare with one of my clients, and it quickly became with that, I'll give you more of my background and the objectives of today's talk, but why don't I move over into the slides and go from there. All right. So, as product managers, we have the opportunity to contribute to various industries. It's pretty incredible. I have had experience working in broadcast media where I had to get of gas advertising at gas stations, convenience stores, and fitness clubs. And in healthcare, I actually had the opportunity to scrub in and participate in a surgery as part of my discovery. So I find our field fascinating. I think it's incredible, the opportunities that we have. Digital health, however, incredibly challenging in terms of onboarding. And so we're going to go through a little bit of that today. Just to be clear, encompasses a wide range of categories. This includes mobile health, technology, wearable devices, telehealth, telemedicine, personalized medicine. So it's large area. Okay, so what are the objectives for today? So today we want to talk about why is this topic important? What are some common applications of healthcare in the digital space that we as product managers have the opportunity to? We're going to go over a little bit of terminology and some use cases, and also some innovation frameworks. Get everyone hopefully excited about this topic. And then how would you succeed as a healthcare product manager? I really want to give some takeaways there. First, why am I talking about this today? Right now, and I primarily do strategic consulting. So we help startups and enterprises innovate. Our focus is creating ideas using a lean approach. I spend a good amount of time working with clients in design, planning. I facilitate strategic roadmap planning. We've got marketing, development. Say we do a lot of prototyping and testing before we get to development. That's a really important piece. And while I have a few industry certifications, I'm mostly a big believer in lean thinking, and I'm a huge fan of Clayton Christensen and those focusing on innovating. innovating industries in a time of really rapid global transformation. And we'll talk a little bit about what Clayton Christensen offers in as far as an innovation toolkit for product management. I'm the co-founder of a social good company. You know, just like so many product managers out there, I've had a desire to help other people build products and services, and also to do something on my own. That's, you know, passion work for me. So why this talk? And then we're going to dive into sort of the meat of the talk today. So why this talk? Growing up, I really wanted to get into medicine, and I spent a lot of time in medical settings, sort of a firsthand experience with the complexities, from quality of patient care to challenges that providers have, providers meeting, you know, doctors, nurses, those giving care to patients, the challenges they had managing their time and having correct data. Really intensive world. And so as I witnessed all of this and wanted to get into the field, I ultimately chose technology because I saw how technology is a way to innovate, essentially with healthcare, innovate people's lives. I mean, this is, you know, quality of care is the ability to impact people on a global scale, people's quality of life. So I have had a few client engagements specifically on healthcare, from creating digital health applications to implementing electronic health records. And that's really why I want to talk about this with everyone today, to share a little bit of that and how interesting and exciting the field is. And now, and really look at just some quick facts on, we all know this, but essentially, you know, we're in a state of information, global healthcare costs rise. If we just take, you know, a quick snapshot, we can see that the demand for healthcare services by consumers, you know, quality healthcare is rising, and costs are rising. So managers, we can get involved in some of the technology that's being developed to advance all of this. But despite economic indicators and the digital training, it's that the execution goes properly, and there's not a lot of product management influence, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. What are the healthcare industry goals? You know, I mean, I think we all know this, right? We want to improve patient satisfaction and experience, cost. We want to improve quality of care for patients, and we want to have across the globe. So these are sort of the goals of the industry, and the Institute for Healthcare Improvement is just one of many guidance areas that you would need to learn as a product manager in healthcare. Learn about what the goals are and what's being done, as some regulations and compliance. So these are things that you would need to get involved in and really learn about. And it's quite fascinating because it's changing so rapidly. And so while we as product managers, you know, we onboard to a new industry, I think fairly quickly, and we know how to do that. Healthcare has a much longer onboarding process because there are so many governing bodies and it's changing so quickly. Many holders, if you will, so many users. We've got providers, payers. They may not be the same A provider could be, you know, a doctor or nurse, and a payer may not be the patient. The user may not be the patient. The user may be a caregiver. So we have a lot of, if you will, to explore in as far as our, you know, requirements gathering and discovery goes. I will say that, you know, healthcare technology is rising, and as you'll see here, I like this quote by John Nosta. He's a digital health philosopher of Nosta Labs, and he has a lot of good insights. He's very focused on innovating healthcare, digital health, and you know, using technology to enhance is incredibly important. Reducing the time in the hospital through surgical outcomes is another example of what he's working on and others are working on. You know, advancing disease prevention, looking at data across patients with similar symptoms or similar diagnoses. We can really make huge impacts in the solutions that we provide by really looking at that data and coming up with ways to solve those problems as product managers. I will say that, you know, some of the other examples that we'll see in innovation are pretty impactful. If you look at, you know, recent innovations in this space, right? We've been doing a lot with in the top right here, you'll see it looks like it's a electronic health record system. That's a way to document, review, manage, and then often generate patient information, so patients can have their access to their data in a meaningful way and in a consumable way. But it's a lot of these innovations are really in their infancy, in that they're wonderful ideas, but they're only first steps, because we're still working on how to make sense of how people use this technology. Is it how patients use it, and how it can truly be effective on a broader scale. This is something that, you know, we should be really excited about, and we should also that there's a lot further that we need to go to make these really impactful and really useful. So how do we do a product management in healthcare? I just want to take a quick moment to walk through, you know, the commercialization process as it exists today in healthcare, just to show you a little nuance of how you might need to think about in this slide. I'm talking about commercialization of a drug or a medical device, not necessarily a digital health application. These steps are really similar to the software development or product development lifecycle, because the majority of people involved in developing healthcare products and services come from a medical background. And they aren't necessarily people that are focused on business process or technically savvy. It's very much about classification of what the healthcare product should be, and wrapping a solution around a regulatory strategy or compliance measures, which is required because there's a lot of federal regulation. So as a product manager, it's really important to understand what are the regulatory and compliance measures, and interpreting them in the right way so that we can come up with effective solutions. It may not be, it means one thing, but we may, through more discovery, understand that there's a lot of options with one regulation. I'll give a quick example of use. So in meaningful use, I think it was really stage 1 meaningful use. The goal is to the federal government created an incentive program for requirements around certified electronic health record technology. And the goal is we're going to digitize, we're going to move away from paper, and the goal is to improve the quality and safety and efficiency of this. So in stage 1, we're looking at clinical data and providing patients with electronic copies of health information. I'm not sure about you, and I'm not gratefully not visiting the doctor so frequently, but I very rarely receive any sort of version of my visits. This has been challenging to take off, and we have to question, is this because of regulatory issues? Is this because of challenges in technology adoption with providers? So as product managers, we kind of get into the details of that with what we're working on, and really try to understand what the problems are so that we can come up with the right solutions, or we can enhance what's been created to have it meet the goals that were, or have been set forth. A big part of this commercialization process is all about regulatory measures and compliance, and so that's what we have to think about as part of our product management process. So healthcare and product management, there's a huge opportunity to really make some impact. And product managers who understand the industry of healthcare and technology are very, very valuable. And while healthcare is still largely, a very waterfall type in terms of, creating solutions and launching those solutions, if we can bring lean principles to healthcare and healthcare technology, even if the overall product launch needs to be waterfall to have, account for the regulatory and compliance, but if we can bring in that lean thinking, and in that lean thinking, I'm talking about build, measure, learn, effective discovery, we can really make some impacts to this industry. So I would say another piece as far as an opportunity is looking at and really looking at and leveraging your subject matter experts. So there's a huge number of folks that can provide the right insight you're working on. And this is everyone from clinicians to patients to administrative personnel. If you're going to get into this industry, you need to meet with the people at the front desk, office that do billing, as well as doctors. And there's, as we know, there's various types of doctors. How does a surgeon interact with a system post-surgery versus a assisting doctor, perhaps during surgery? These are all of the nuances that you need to consider if you're developing a product or service for the industry, because these folks are interacting with systems, and systems that have a software and a hardware component. So it's quite broad. Let's go into a few more nuances. So there's nuances in requirements and design that you need to be thinking of. And I would say this is largely, and we're all familiar with workflow. We do our discovery, we do our research, and we think about user flow, we think about workflow. In healthcare, there's so many, I would say, streams that we need to think about. There's clinical, there's technical, there's different personas within each group. So really identifying those and looking at each setting that they're in is also really important. You need to think about the user experience just in any other product. But as I said earlier, it's also made a little more complex because you're thinking about in different settings, hardware, and you have a lot of measures that you need to be aware of. There's usability requirements. Everyone's trying to do a great job in healthcare. They're trying. I think it's very challenging. So HIMSS, which we'll talk about in a few minutes when we go into a little terminology, they've developed a usability maturity model, and it's essentially it's guidelines to follow for how to interact with medical systems. So you may need digital displays, whereas before a whiteboard was sufficient. How do you provide data in real time with medical surgeries? What's the most efficient way to document a surgery? What field should we use on the front end, depending on what device type we're on? I mean, this is all what I think is pretty exciting information that you get to learn about and also contribute to. Excuse me. Nuances in technical implementations. So, we're thinking about and our development team, we have to look at security and privacy because of patient data, as we know, and I'm sure we're pretty familiar with the term. Interoperability is really important, ensuring that the systems that we build are able to integrate with other systems. There's teams that have created standardization for data. And the purpose is, if I develop a system, established a standard for how that should receive data on the front end and carry that data through, and I standardize on that, and I can use that template, if you will, across other systems, then we have a much better chance at improving patient outcomes by using one way of transmitting information. When you get involved in this field, you'll learn that certifying bodies is tied to certification. I talked about meaningful use earlier. A cash-based incentive for providers. There's others that do not have incentive necessarily, but are required for the application to work properly. I remember going through SureScripts certification, which is the electronic prescribing of medication. So how do we have an application that talks with and sends data to a pharmacy that has its own process and requirements? So when you're designing writing your requirements and building, you need to follow those. And then there's also there's many more than this. This is just to share. So, again, this on board in this industry, you really must be well versed across. I would say these are the big categories, resources online, and your subject matter experts would be able to about each of these things in great detail. But you have to stay current of the industry, of legislation, and technology standards to all of these. So that's the Affordability and Accountability Act. It's just think about privacy and security, right? So that's really important. We talked about meaningful use and moving with the goal of electronic health record technology and outcomes. What I've done is I've worked with subject matter experts that are PhDs, researchers, those that are involved in legislation, and really interviewing them, and interviewing them frequently because things keep changing, asking the right questions. It's definitely, we as product managers know how to do that really well. We believe we ask questions, we know the questions to ask, we know how to ask the same question differently to elicit different responses. And I would say it's even more challenging in healthcare because you have to really understand what your subject matter experts are sharing with you and then go back for more information. So it's definitely kind of be patient with. On the FDA, we know, but did we know that they're really focused on digital health, and that we're creating today, a lot of them are, say, wearable devices. They connect to and they communicate with other systems. So you have to understand on Fitbit regulations that govern how that piece of technology can be used for tracking and managing health. I would say, to take it a step further, you want to understand, how are we impacting by what we're developing, and how can we improve upon that as we go. HIMSS, we talked about, that is Healthcare Information and Management System Society. It's a global society. It's cause-based. It's a not-for-profit, but they're really focused on better care outcomes through IT, and they have a conference every year that's really fantastic. It's people from all over, experts. You have people that are doing a lot with data and data science, and actually created a robust data set of healthcare information that's been curated, and it's available through HIMSS Analytics. And so that's another tool to use as well. HL7 FHIR, we talked about that. That's interoperability, essentially. FHIR is pronounced fire. And I think this is really fascinating because data formats that allow the quick information, basically information exchange for electronic health records. So it's easy to integrate and work with other systems. Resources from government, essentially. And then we're familiar with the Affordable Care Act. We know why it was designed. It's speak as a healthcare PM, you have to stay on top of all of this. So that's a great example of how it's changing right before our eyes. So digital health apps are a quick snapshot of what that covers, because it's quite broad. And mHealth, mobile health apps, is really probably the #1 top funded IT technology right now. The challenge is the adoption curve is growing for wearables. The statistic, I think it was shared by Rock Health, it was 46% of consumers are now considered active digital health adopters. That's great. It's up from 19% in the year prior. So this is 2016, 2015 data. That's fantastic. But really, this data to improve lives is the question. And so these are just some of the we're having, integrations. How does a integrate with my doctor? Can I send my doctor my data and have he or she provide care while I'm at home? I think maybe that's the vision that some of us hope to get to. Also looking at integration with healthcare technology and medical device. What about my wearable? Can I connect it to my blood pressure machine, or can my EKG give me information by connecting to a device that gives me data in real time? These are all about, but we don't necessarily have holistic solution. Product managers, when we're working on these applications, especially with digital health, you have to think about, as we all do, but you really have to think about edge cases. With Paul Hurwitz, another mentor this session, about that in healthcare technology. And you really have to, what happens if this doesn't go well? If thing and did, or and privacy measures we put in place didn't go well. So there's a lot of edge case thinking, product management. I would say you spend your time in discovery and edge case thinking. So kind of segue a little bit into how edge case thinking do, and thinking and innovation frameworks, powerful tools to impact change, because they really make us think out of the box. In the Clayton Christensen world of this, he has what he's defined as jobs to be done. You'll see this as an acronym, JT, jobs to be done. But Clayton Christensen is a Harvard Business School professor, and it's based on the idea that customers don't buy products and services; they hire solutions, various solutions at various times to get a job done. And so I really believe this is important in healthcare product management, to look at how we can be more innovative in our thinking And I think Jobs to be Done is a great framework for that. Most companies look at creating a solution, but here we might take a use case and turn that into really an enhanced user story, a job to be done, and say, what is the situation I'm in? What is the motivation? And then what is the outcome? So that could look anything like blank, I want to blank so I can blank. And that's that situation, motivation, outcome. So how is Jobs to be Done, how is that different from a job to be done is really about, and in this example, say we have a main job to be done. There's functional, emotional, and we'll take Innovator's Toolkit is a wonderful resource, and they provide an example of, I need to get my teeth cleaned. And so piece, that's the job to be done, that's the functional aspect. And I'll probably use a toothbrush. Now on the emotional side, I want to feel good when I'm doing this. I don't want it to be painful, and maybe I want to create that I have clean teeth. A solution might be, and the Sonicare, as you know, if you're familiar with that sort of brush, a 2-minute timer, so maybe it holds me more accountable. Teeth, and as I buy new brush every so many months. That's like a tiny example of creating or innovating rather, a product, toothbrush, and turning it into a Sonicare. Another great resource, if you're interested, beyond Clayton Christensen's work and Innovator's Toolkit, you can check out Chief Innovator. I think it's chiefinnovator.com, which is a fantastic curated of innovation and innovation theory. So just a tad bit more on Jobs to be Done as it relates to products that we're creating, say for healthcare. Obviously, you can use Jobs to be Done in your current work today, but in healthcare, I loved this quote from John Brownstein. He says, inclined to use wearables and track their health if they knew their physician was using that information and it directly impacted their clinical care. Absolutely. I think we're heading there, but we need people get the industry more in that direction. This can give you a few other examples of Jobs to be done as far as innovating a solution. So maybe I might do, for medicine, I might have a skin patch instead of a pill. I don't like to swallow those pills. I don't want to take a shot, but a skin patch that also maybe has a timed release medicine might be a better solution. Example of a job to be done, patients. How do we get engaged patients? Oh, there's a problem of too many doctor's appointments, which results in doctor's visits. Problem, how can we innovate? Maybe the doctor prescribes an app, doctor visits because there's ongoing monitoring and the doctor's able to contribute to patient care remotely and ongoing. One example. I like this quote. Alejandro Fong, he says that challenge to adoption in this industry, users, or there's so many different stakeholders. And so as a product manager, you need to understand the needs, the uses, and then buy in, product is really commercially viable. You can create innovation teams as a product manager, and that's where it's really exciting. You know, you clinicians and researchers and administration, whenever you're working on a technology, you will be empowered to do that. And so I think that's really fun because you get to work with a lot of different people, really impacts. Really rely on an extended team as well. I mean, it's technical teams and nurses and staff and researchers. That's folks to bring in, as well as the data that comes from the systems that these folks are using, interpreting that data and making changes based on the data review. So my suggestion, if you want to get involved in the industry and healthcare technology, and I'd love to talk more with you about this after this talk, if anyone has questions or wants more resources, but really dedicate time to onboarding. Take your time. You have to be patient and interview, first identify, and then interview your subject matter experts pretty extensively. And you spend a lot of time in discovery and customer development. You definitely want to get HIPAA training. You want to go to conferences. You want to do on-site discovery. So you want to go to doctors' offices, surgery centers, whatever's relevant for the products that you're working on. And then you want to create clear focus groups. You spend a lot of time out of the office, in the field, in healthcare product management. And then you'll get to a base of industry knowledge. And you'll realize that you've scratched the surface and there's so much more to learn. And you know, so many of us are overachievers, and I think that is exciting. You know, I think it's something that you can really impact a lot of people over time, but I think you have to dedicate to it. Champion lean principles, bring that expertise to the industry, and it'll go far. And I think identifying champions as well is very important. So here we say champion lean principles, but also champion engagement. Bring in the right experts, bring in people that believe in what you're working on, and have them help you almost sell what you're working on to others. Meaning, if you're working with a clinic and you're implementing an electronic health record system, and the right people that believe that's a good idea, and you have to help them get onboarded, and you have to show them what's in it for them in terms of providing better care, making more efficient use of their time, and get them to help you bring that throughout the organization. It's really, really important to ensure adoption, teams of people. So for a clinic, making sure that the front desk person and the back office person are aligned, that the provider is aligned, that the staff is aligned is super important. You know, finally, really understand and appreciate the nuances of what you're working on. You have to identify the subject matter experts and partner with them, learning curve up front, and realize it's really exciting to develop something that can have such a huge impact. Commit yourself. I believe that committing to the industry and having a passion for the products you support is very important. And I think in healthcare product management, it's even more so because of the onboarding that we've seen today. And then spend time in discovery. Really know that it's ongoing. commercialization are time consuming, and that it's a worthwhile journey. So I hope this talk has been insightful. I hope that you have found it to be interesting, and that folks that want to get involved in healthcare product management, my contact information's here if you want to ask some questions. I have a good number of folks that are looking for awesome healthcare product managers, and just love talking about the industry. So get in touch if you'd like.
Awesome. We had a question just come in. And so the question that comes from Mark Jones, what surprised you most about the healthcare industry when you were beginning to work in it? Shelley, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
So the answer to the question?
Yeah, so essentially that's a great question, Mark. I think what surprised me most is how much complexity.
Also, you should turn off your screen sharing. We can't see you.
Turned it off. All right. That's much better. Okay. There's so much to learn. And also, to be honest, I thought that, this is a great one. I thought that transforming paper to digital was just a win no matter what. And what I learned is it doesn't always make providers more efficient if they're used to working a certain way. Technology is not necessarily a solution across the board. It needs to be implemented for the right. And so it was a hard lesson to learn that digital is not always the way to go if executed properly. I would say that's the biggest learning.
The next question is there a medical app or device you use the most? And this comes from an anonymous individual. And is there a medical company that you've been very impressed by? And you'll have to unmute yourself to answer the question.
Thanks. Medical device. I wouldn't say that I use any real medical devices, and as a person who considers herself a technology enthusiast, I do not own a watch or a Fitbit or any of those, because I personally don't feel that they're advanced, provide enough value. I really am impressed with Optum Health. I'm impressed with Aetna, with what I've learned recently in population health. I think I'm very interested in a lot of universities as well and what they're doing. Pennsylvania, they're making a lot of inroads in medicine, and I'm pretty familiar with.
What do you see? This comes from Kenan. Where do you think the biggest opportunity for technology to improve healthcare is? Patient experience, medical records, other?
I think the biggest opportunity is in patients that have chronic conditions. There's a great opportunity there to help them manage their conditions and stay connected. People with chronic illness, a lot of them have serious medical, and how do you communicate with your medical team on an ongoing basis? How are you monitored to know symptom management? How do you manage your symptoms? How do you know when things need to shift? How do you get the right support? So I would say conditions.
Excellent. So again, thank you for everyone who joined us, and to our speaker, Shelley Iocona, founder and lead strategist of On Its Access, for today's discussion of product management and the nuances of digital health apps. Also, as always, the presentation will be posted on our SlideShare channel. And a big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, and everyone else who joined us today in the Product Mentor. And don't forget, if you are interested in being a product mentor like today's speaker, Shelley, to product people of all sorts, visit theproductmentor.com and sign up today. Also, if you're looking to fill a new job with a great product person, visit our very own free-for-all job board at theproductjobs.com. And with all of that said, I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.
Thank you.